You cited freedom of speech. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
In order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. Ha, gotcha.
Welcome to another analysis video. My name is Maranatha Kure. I'm a lawyer licensed in the US. I like to dig deeper and understand the values on which the United States was created. This was one of the most antagonistic interviews Jordan ever had, especially at the beginning of his popularity a couple of years ago.
Let me move on to another debate that's been very controversial for you. And this is, you got in trouble for refusing to call trans men and women by their preferred personal pronouns.
No, that's not actually true. I got in trouble because I said I would not follow the compelled speech dictates of the federal and provincial government. I actually never got in trouble for not calling anyone anything.
Her goal was not to get down to the truth. She already had an idea of what she wanted to paint or who she wanted to paint Jordan as. If she did not, she would already know why Jordan got into trouble.
I actually never got in trouble for not calling anyone anything.
Right.
That didn't happen.
You wouldn't follow the change of law, which was designed
not
to
once it was
outlaw
law.
discrimination.
No.
Why
that's what they said it was designed to do.
Okay, you cited freedom of speech in that. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
You can tell that she hasn't really thought too much about this question. Why? She should have realized that the right not to be offended does not exist. Not for trans people, not for anybody else. And the reason is the ability to be offended is the only ability we have to learn. If you take away the right, quote unquote, to be offended, then we don't have the right to learn anything. Think about anything you've ever learned in your life. It was through getting hurt or getting offended. From learning how to ride a bike when you were a kid, you fell down from the bike many times, but from falling down, you learned how to pick yourself up and how to ride the bike at the end of the day. There is no taking away, there's no divorcing the ability to be hurt with the ability to learn. You just can't. So if you take one away, you are going against fundamental human nature, which leads me to the other point. If you take a look at these two rights that she just described.
Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
One of these things adhere to natural law, to natural rights, and the other doesn't. The right not to be offended, like I just mentioned, does not exist. But where does the fundamental freedom of speech come from? Every right that we have has to adhere to a natural law right. The right can either be a natural law right or a political right. The freedom of speech, even though it doesn't seem like it, is actually a political right. A politician can write this law protecting the freedom of speech or can remove the law protecting the freedom of speech. It takes human action to do it. Now, for every political right that we have, there has to be a natural law right backing it up. What is a natural law right that backs up the freedom of speech? It's two rights, or at least one right and one condition. The natural law right that backs the freedom of speech is the freedom of conscience. The freedom of conscience states that a person is able to act and to live according to what they believe is right. And that right itself is founded on the belief that we believe right or wrong based on what helps us survive longer. Why is the freedom of conscience a natural law right and freedom of speech not? When you violate a natural law right, there are natural consequences, whether you have a law that supports it or a law that doesn't support it. The very nature of man makes it such that humanity, the human nature, will react to the violation of that right. It's what has led to revolutions for many years. And the freedom of speech is the freedom to communicate my conscience. For every natural law right, you'll be able to observe it across many cultures. Not just one. For instance, now, if we take a look back at history, many different cultures talk about the freedom of conscience. So a couple of them here. While we are contending for our own liberty, this is from George Washington, we should be very cautious not to violate the rights of conscience in others. No one shall coerce another. No one shall exploit another. Everyone, each individual has the inalienable right to seek and pursue happiness and self-fulfillment. Love and persuasion is the only law of social coherence. When freedom of conscience, liberty of thought, and right of speech prevail, that is to say, when every man according to his own idealization may give expression to his beliefs, development and growth are inevitable. But if serving the Lord is undesirable to you, then choose this day for yourself whom you will serve. That's from the book of Joshua. because they are natural to the human condition, you will observe them in many different cultures. The rights protected in the Bill of Rights were protected because they were the rights that tyrants typically take away. For instance, the right to bear arms, not actually a natural law right, it's a political right. There is no human right to bear arms, but there's human right to self-defense. A political right must adhere to a natural law right. If it violates a natural law right, the human condition will revolt against it. The right not to be offended is neither a political or natural law right. In fact, it goes against human nature. So if you create a law that creates that right that does not adhere to natural law rights, that right will be dissolved, removed, destroyed at some point.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I have
but you get
exercised
my
my freedom of
point.
speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on.
So
And
do
that is
you-
what you should do. But
And
you're
you
exercising
think-
your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and I'm just trying to work that out. I mean,
Ha, gotcha.
you have got me. You have got me. I'm trying to work
about
that through in
time.
my head. Yeah, it took a while.
It did, yeah.
Took a while.